Brady, I appreciate your time, man. And I before we get into, Project X and some other stuff that you've worked on, man, I want to go from the very beginning. You grew up in Texas, or you started there. Um, could you please, man, just tell me how that impacted your interest in filmmaking and growing up there and everything?
Dude, 100% Rocco. Pretty much it started through my mom, not like an industry connection thing. She was actually on a Craigslist type forum, and it was a student film. They were looking for a young toddler type. Like I was actually 5 years old when I did it, and it was a student film horror movie. And they were looking for someone young. My mom found it, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, you know what, Brady, you want to just try this for fun? Like, I'll take you there and we'll see how you like it. Some extracurricular, see if I like a hobby." And we ended up doing it. I think it was like 2 days of shooting. Obviously low budget, but at the time I was 5. I was like, oh, there's a guy with a sound mic and a camera. This is Hollywood. Even though it was Texas. And I loved it. The cast and crew were, it was just student filmmakers, but really they were like so awesome and nice. And they told me, they're like, man, like you're that was amazing for a kid actor. Probably watching it back, I don't know, but but it was cool to kind of have that experience and have that first step. And then from that first project, I was like, you know what, hey, I like this. And I mean, it became a whole thing of my mom then trying to kind of help me out. And so she looked for talent agents and managers that we were in Houston, Texas. And so she was just trying to find any ways to get me repped out there and start getting me seen. And it started from really one Craigslist ad in Houston, Texas, to being out here in LA now and being able to be a part of Project X.
So did it start? So from that point on, like, what else did you do after that? How did you get from Texas to LA? Was there multiple opportunities in between that started from there?
Yeah. So from my mom trying to get me repped and get me some representation out there, I would do like some local stuff. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Luby's restaurants. It's like a cafe type buffet. It's local to Houston, and I'm not sure if it's bigger, but I would do some local stuff there for like another grocery store. I did some local commercials, so I would build up my acting experience and portfolio and resume. And then I started getting like some local theatrical and more like lower budget movies out there. And finally, this was kind of like the big my big Texas break opportunity. Was I was then 8 years old, so I had now been like 3 years of like, not all the time, obviously I was going to school, I was still a normal kid. This was just like every once in a while as a hobby, I'll go on a couple auditions, do a couple small local things, but I still liked it. Like, my mom was never a stage mom, didn't force anything on it. Like, this was I'm proud to say it was all me as a
That's
kid, man.
awesome.
It's hard to find that. And so anyway, so I was around 8 years old, and I had an audition for, it was a movie at the time, it was called Every Word Is True. And the director was Douglas McGrath. And the audition, we were based out of Houston. The audition was in Austin, Texas. So my mom drove me up there. We prepared the scene and everything. And funny enough, to me, this is a whole movie scene in itself. My mom had dropped me off in the wrong location, complete accident. She's like, no, that's the casting office. This is the address. Like, everything matches up. This is right. I went in there. I'm 8 years old. I'm lost. I'm like, oh no, my mom just dropped me off. She's looking for a parking spot. And I'm like, well, shoot, if this isn't it, I don't know what to do. So there's a post office. I won't get too sidetracked. Anyway, we finally made it to the audition. And at the time, it was for a project called Every Word Is True. And I was meeting, actually, I remember the director was there. So it was like a straight to director's audition. And they ended up liking me. And the role was for a young, I can't remember now, but it was based off of the novel In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And the movie ended up changing its title. It was released as Infamous. And there was another movie that came out at the same time just before, but it was about that whole novel and him. And I ended up playing a young Daniel Craig. And so that was what that audition was for. And for me, that was like, oh my goodness, young Daniel Craig, Sigourney Weaver's in the movie, Sandra Bullock was in the movie. Like this was just, it was a Hollywood movie. They just happened to be filming in Texas, and I was a local, and I got hired as a local actor to play one of the young characters in a flashback. But
That's
for me at the time, this was like the break. And my agent locally in Houston was like, this is great. You know what? You should use this. If you want to give it a real shot, you should try LA. I have a manager there who's I'm connected with, like they're willing to take a meeting, and then they'll help you get a couple other meetings out there to like see if your kids want to do this and if they can have some success. And that was that moment of like my mom taken me, and it was my sister as well. She had kind of seen me trying to do some of this, and I think she wanted some attention, so she was like, all right, I'm gonna try and be an actress too. And she loves it now as well. But that's how she got started. And it was that moment after that movie that my mom was like, you know what, I'm gonna take you and your sister, and it's just gonna be us three. We're gonna go out there and give it a shot.
So when you're doing these, when you're way younger, I know the laws are different for how long a younger person can be on set. I mean, when you're doing these gigs, are they really pushing you to get your stuff done first, or how did that work for you specifically?
You know what? That's actually it. At the time, like as a kid, I feel we don't know a whole lot. We don't really realize. I just think, all right, I'm here, I'm working, and then I'm done. That's it.
Yeah,
But
literally.
we'll get into it on Project X actually, because I have some funny stories about that. But I noticed it then. But I realized, yeah, no, it's exactly what you say. You know, they try and use my time as efficiently as they can. Like it's only 8 hours, and then it depends when I'm shooting too. They don't consider school session or summer session, so they're shooting whenever. And if school is in session at the time, they have to have an on-set teacher, and I have to do schoolwork during part of the day. And realistically, like it's probably only like 4 hours of work on like an 8-hour work day, just because like they in the union they try and keep it as healthy as possible for a kid. Like back in the day, they probably abused the crap out of these kids and work abused them, and like had them.
Literally.
I mean, there's stories even from Wizard of Oz. So anyway, yeah, no, they're definitely efficient with the time, and they're trying to get us in and out, and it's almost like the kids' time has to come first because we're shooting around them, and then everything else, like the adults can get OT, that's fine, but like the kids, it's like it's not even about OT. It's like a law. You can't work them.
Correct. It's one of those things where it's sort of like elementary school. You got to have some sort of recess. You got to have some sort of lunch. So that's really cool that you said that, because and I'm glad that your stories were good stories too, because just like you said, there's a lot of bad ones out there.
Honestly, even in my time working here, and even in the new time, like there's still bad stuff going on everywhere, and I was lucky enough to not have to have experienced it in my career.
So you're doing all these gigs, you're leading up, you get a big opportunity for a feature film. So now you're getting your name out there. More importantly, you're getting your image out there, and more people are seeing who Brady is. Where does Project X come into the timeline? I believe it was shot in 2010, but how do you get? I know they did a wide casting call for unknowns, but how did you specifically get involved in the project?
So, one, I'm glad they did it that way, and nowadays too, the industry's even kind of changed. Well, if we get into that later, but it's more accessible now. It wasn't as accessible back then. It was more kind of like you almost wait for that motorcycle to go by. You almost had to have a manager and an agent to be repped by to get auditions, and in particular, that's how I got an audition kind of through the more traditional way of casting. But I'm glad for the main cast that they did those just random casting calls that anyone could, because that's how you'll find some true raw talent of people that like wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity. So I thought it was awesome that they did that for the lead cast, and I'm not sure I'm not sure if they did that for the supporting cast, because at least in my experience, so this was another story as well, which we'll get into, is I did audition for Tyler and Everett, but throughout because I had probably like 5 or 6 auditions for Project X, but initially I just went in as a normal casting call. You're just meeting with the casting director and like maybe an assistant. and it's probably a lobby full of like 8 other kids, and that's every 15 minutes. Like normally they see probably like 500 kids, something like that. And so first round it was at Tyler and Everett. Second round, Tyler and Everett. Then third round, they were like, you know what? Let's also see. We have some high school kids. Just read some lines. So we did that, and then went back to Tyler and Everett, and it finally had like kept going down. You know, each time there's like less kids there, and then finally on the last time, like I showed up and it was like just me there, and I'm meeting with all the producers, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is serious. This is starting to look pretty cool. At the time, though, still I was a kid. I don't think I realized the gravity of it. I guess I was, which was probably better, honestly. I'm glad, because now nowadays in a room of producers, I'm like, oh, there's so much more, like, oh man, the heart's beating, oh shoot, got to do this. But so I had auditioned for Tyler and Everett a lot, and waited a little bit. This was 2010. Finally, it was the summer, and my mom got a call, and she said, hey Brady, you booked Project X, but you had actually booked a different role. Remember when you read for the high school students? So they liked you for that. So they want to bring you in for that. Trust me, I'm blown away. Either way, I'm like, a movie. This is awesome. I was elated regardless. And had waited, done a couple fitting, like just a simple fitting, I think, for like high school clothes, and then got on set. First day of filming, at least for me, I don't know how far along they were in. And they had actually had casted different security guards originally. And after like the first day of filming, we did a couple, just some test stuff. And I don't know how the feelings were. Maybe nothing was exactly how they envisioned, etc. I wasn't behind the scenes, so I don't know what that looked like. But I'll tell you, I remember this. They sent everyone home. We're on our way back from Burbank, driving back home to our house, and we get a call. My mom gets a call. She said, hey, how far are you guys from set? Like, I know we just sent you home, but like, you can't be that far, right? Like probably 5-10 minutes away. Mom was like, yeah, like, what's up? They're like, can you come back? We want to just have a quick meeting with you guys. Just come here really quickly. We're like, this is bizarre. I thought we just got sent home. Let's go back. So we get back to set, and it's some of the producers, and they hand me and Nick, we get there at the same time almost. They're like, hey, here's the sides for the security roles. Like, we know you guys did it again, but do it this way. They told us, for me, I remember particularly, they said, read it like Steven Seagal. You're like, boom, you're just RoboCop almost. Like, no emotion, just very boom, bam, bam. And I was like, okay, I got it. So they gave us like 10 minutes to like get familiar with the sides, and then we met with them, and they're like, all right, again, it was almost like the audition, which is what's weird, because I'm like, we had already auditioned for this, but we did it on set. They're like, all right, now read the lines. So me and Nick we did it, boom, boom. They were like, all right, you're Tyler and Everett now. Me and Nick were looking at each other like, dude, what? Did that just happen? Like, are we? So, and to say now, there's a lot of conflicted feelings about obviously the other cast and what had happened, what had transpired. I'm not sure, but for myself, it was a blessing in disguise, maybe. But that was ultimately how we ended up then being cast as Tyler and Everett. And from that day, they were like, all right, now here's the new lines that you already kind of knew from the auditions. Just do it the way we did it. And then it became one summer of Nick and I getting to play security for an awesome cult party movie.
Was it actually you in the window when Oliver was like, yo, where are you? Where are you? Was that you?
So, no, I mean, a lot of it was pretty real. It was still like a Hollywood filmed movie. I will say a lot of the party scenes that they shot, from stuff I heard and just from like what I had seen on set, it was kind of like they just put on some music and said, all right, guys, party. So a lot of that stuff was kind of real, obviously in a tamed sense. But for any of the stuff that was like more of a scene, it was still like, all right, ready, action, boom, we're going to do this. So when I was up in the house, like I was in the closet, that was real. But I know there's a little flash of like a little light, like I'm doing like a little ding, 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 ding. So that one wasn't me. That one they must have had. I don't know if it was added in post. I don't know if they had like a grip guy up there who like they perfectly matched the light. But the one in the actual house was not me.
Did you film the the sex scene with Thomas and Alexis in the closet?
So that one's funny too, actually. I had talked to the director of photography, Ken Seng, about this because I was really impressed with how they did this at the time. So to go back to the being a minor on set, I was only like 14 when I filmed this. So I was a minor on set, and obviously there's nudity in the movie. I'll tell this quick story before moving on to that scene because it kind of relates. So because I was a minor, there's nudity on set, etc. They had to be extremely cautious with how they treated the set while minors were there. So they had to do Nick, like they really did film overnight. So Nick and I, we didn't get there until like 7 o'clock. It's still kind of like dusk. The sun's going down, and we're getting ready for set. And then finally they're going to start filming right when the sun goes down. It's probably like 8:30. It's summertime, like this, just went down. So they'll film with us from like 8:30 to like midnight. And I think they can only keep us till like midnight because we were minors. So like they couldn't keep us past, even though we didn't work the whole, that was just, I guess, the rule. But because they were going to then do nude stuff or other inappropriate stuff that they couldn't do, they, for legal purposes, actually had to have someone videotape us leaving set just to, like, I guess, cover their butts, to say, look, no, the minor's gone, like date, timestamped, everything. We're doing this the right way. So that's how they had.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. I would have never thought that.
And I don't know. It could have been like maybe they hadn't done it in the past and there was an issue, and so that's why they had to do it. I don't know why they did it, but they were like on top of it. Obviously, I guess they don't want any issues. So to relate this to the sex scene with Alexis and Thomas, I wasn't allowed to be there, obviously, because of the nudity. And so the way they had done it was they had kind of filmed it in two parts. And my compliments to the director of photography, Ken Seng, is at the time they used red cameras, which I think were pretty new. It was like 2008 that they had come out. So 2010 filming, they were like still a relatively new system. But you would probably nerd out this a little bit too, being a filmmaker. So I don't know if you know too, there's the new Sony camera where you can like disconnect it and it's like a cable.
Correct.
And
yes.
So this was that, almost ahead of its time. For my little flip camera, I don't know if you remember, that's how I filmed it. So we really did have real flip cameras that we filmed some stuff with. But for this particular scene, they had rigged out that flip camera. It was a cable with a camera lens that went through my jacket, and then I was holding the lens. And so it was a fake flip phone for that scene where the camera was tubed down and it went down to like some other camera system. I'm not 100% sure how they do that, but I remember being fed the camera tube or the lens or whatever it was. So I had filmed that section first. I was like, all right, we're here. I don't remember the lines now, but I was like, it's chaos out there, it's war, and then she's here. So boom, when I turned the lights off, that's really when the scene cut. And they were like, all right, cut. Brady's done for the night. He's gone. Now Alexis can get nude or whatever, they had her do. But I was actually, before this, I remember I got to read some wild lines with her in the bathroom. Like they just wanted us to have that tussle with words. Because how she's like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, oh, do you need any help, ma'am? Those moments were just quick wild lines, which, on set, as but in case anyone doesn't, are just like some quick pickups while we're there, everyone quiet, just to try and see what might match to edit and post later.
I'm so glad you said that, Brady. I have to tell you, I always thought that because the rigging the camera, because I thought when I'm watching some of the Paranormal Activity films back, like the later ones,
sure,
they're using red cameras too. And I'm like, there's no way this is that then. So you just said what I always was kind of like, there's got to be something going on here.
I guess it's got to be, hats off to talented director photographers. They have some secret sauce that maybe the audience wouldn't otherwise know that really helps bring some believability into movies.
Yeah. I mean, so talented people, man. Like on Project X, like especially from the found footage perspective, you have so much room, to do.
Dude, well, so to say what I said, they really did have a lot of flip cameras. I mean, for the director of photography, and then even for the edit, for for the editors, there must have been a lot of stuff to go through, because obviously a lot of stuff was choreographed, but other stuff was like, no, they really had to go through tons of found footage stuff to be like, oh, this would actually be perfect for this chaos scene, you know? So for them to even think like that, and to actually have a little bit of trust in the cast and crew to film some okay stuff, and then to have the courage to look through it all later and try and get through it all, was definitely a feat for sure.
I'm sure it's all the same inputs, but they were the little research, like Blackberries, other phones. Imagine all the specific cables you would have to plug them into the PCs, to the hard drives. Imagine all that, man. That's
Dude,
crazy.
no, I mean, it probably looked like a server room wherever they were doing the media offload, you know? It was intense. And like I said, even for me, like when Nick and I, we really did have those flip cameras, like whenever we were filming, we really had the record button going, except for like that one specific moment where it needed to be like, all right, this is the scene that we know is going to be here, so let's just make sure we get it.
Did you, so very specific, just artistic filmmaking questions I want to ask you.
Yeah.
When you got punched in the face by Rob, what was that stunt coordination like? Because you really didn't get hit, you know.
No. Thank you, because my goodness, I wouldn't tell you how many people really think I got hit.
That's how good you guys are, though. That tells you everything you need to know. Right.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
And then some of it's probably, some people are just kind of, you know, teasing and poking fun, which is, it's fun, because listen, if it sold well, I'm all up for the sell and making it believable.
Yeah.
But no, the way we did it, we actually had a very talented stunt coordinator. Forgive me now, his name's passing me, and he had unfortunately had an untimely passing a few years ago, but he was incredibly nice and incredibly talented, and he had orchestrated all the stunts. And obviously I did my own stunt. Rob sold it well too, but it was really just a choreographed stunt scene. You know, Rob was going to come this way, and we were going to leave probably like a 8-inch to foot gap in between us, and I was just going to sell it with the throw. And but I remember, I really want, like, in my head as a kid, I'm like, oh man, like he's punching me, I'm going to really sell it. And so I had kind of like I didn't just throw my head, I like threw my body sideways to the ground, because I had a mat on the floor that I was able to land on, because they're like, no, Brady, we want you to go down. So I took that. I said, all right, I'm going down then. So I literally like sold it. I threw my shoulder up. I kind of threw my hip up a little bit too. And I don't think we did it. I think we did it maybe like 8 or 9 times, maybe 10. They didn't have me go crazy, probably because I was a kid, but I was having a lot of fun doing it.
So when you and Nick tackled Rob towards the ending, was there a mat on the other side off camera too?
Dude, yes, there was. And I love telling this too, because I don't know, it's funny in the movie, like, and I felt like it, everyone said on set, and it's a funny story I like to tell, but they were like, dude, Brady, you got up there and you really tackled him. Like, it was the same thing. It was choreographed, and like Rob knew what we were doing, but all the time, you know, Rob's like a 6 foot something guy. He like was working out. He was, you know, he had meat on him. He was like grown man. He's like, dude, I could take a tackle from 2. You know, we were kids, you know, he's like, I could do it. So he kind of even told us like, dude, you guys can come at me. So me and Nick, we were like, all right, dude, let's get him. So when I ran after him, like we both got him at the same time, but we're at 2 different levels. Nick kind of gets him around the hips, but you see me, I'm getting him around the shoulders. I really launched myself. There's no trampoline. There was nothing there. Like I really jumped off the ground to get up there and like, take him down. And we all landed on the mat, but it was the same thing. We probably did it like this one, maybe 7 or 8 times. But Rob was a good sport about it. Me and Nick were having fun, and everyone on set was like, dude, Brady, you're really getting up there. I'm like, am I? Okay, cool. I'll do it again. You know,
that's so awesome, man. And I mean, did he, obviously it's a real ground. I mean, when you guys are testing out and doing each stunt, each take of it, is there some times where you guys are trying to mirror the previous one? Or are you trying to do each jump different every time?
That's a good question, because you know what? I remember it was a quote or something. I think it was some director had said, or it might have been some kind of known fact was that I believe it was Marlon Brando was never a consistent actor. He would give a different thing on each take, which was pros and cons to it. Pros is you're getting a lot of option, but the cons is there's no continuity. So if you're trying to blend two takes together, it's kind of hard. So at the time, I think I remember hearing that and thinking opposite, that I was like, oh, you know what? I want to try and do it the same way every time, so that if there's any inconsistencies, that maybe it'll be easier to cut. I don't know. And at the time, it was just a tackle. Like, I was probably thinking, even too much about it, but no, I was trying to do it the same way every time, because I remember thinking, like, you know what, I want to make it easiest on them, and I want to do a good job as an actor. So if I can do it the same way every time, that'll make set easier, because then we can get through my scene efficiently, and then we're on to the next because we got it. So at the time, I think it was more of just like I was trying to be considerate of everyone on set. Like, let me do my job, and if I do it good every time, then timing will be good. We'll move on, and everyone's happy.
Do you have anything left over from the film that you kept? Anything from the set?
I wish I did. At the time, dude, all I got, I think, was a pair of jeans. Like, those black jeans that I had, like, those are black jeans that I'm wearing in the movie. I went home with those. And at the time, I was like, I thought it was really cool. And another story I'll say about something that I went home with during filming. But otherwise, no. I mean, I didn't go home with anything. I think I ended up probably getting like a signed. I did a couple signatures on a poster that I gave to my agent at the time, and man, I don't know where that thing is. I wish I could get it back. But one thing I did take home every day was, I thought, just because I thought it was funny, I was like, oh, I'm in a movie. When I would film, obviously after I got hit by Rob, in the movie they had to have continuity. So when we were filming, I had to have a black eye for every scene I appeared in after. So I would go through makeup just to like give me a black eye. Every time after set we finished, it was like midnight. I'm like, I don't want you to take it off. I want to go home with the black eye. I don't know why I thought it was like cool to have a black eye, but and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'd try not to mess up the makeup, and I'd be doing stuff in the morning the next day, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I got a black eye. No, I'm just kidding. It's makeup. I'm doing a movie. Like, it was my little mini bragging right at the time, and it was funny and kind of, my innocent little guilty pleasure, I guess.
That's awesome, man. I mean, like, what excuse me, when what the football stadium scene, was that actually shot very early in the morning, or was the footage shaded to look at a different time?
No. I mean, that's a good question as well. Of course, the filmmaker's going to ask that question. I like it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it really was early. And then, you know what, I do have to say, unfortunately, that location, I believe, is no longer standing. We had shot that at the Pacific Palisades High School in 2010. It was shot in the morning, but I think because of the fires this year in California, it might have affected that football stadium. And I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe that football field is still standing, or the school, unfortunately. But
to add on to that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Project X house was torn down the past year or two at the Warner Brothers Ranch, if I'm correct.
Oh, dude, no, I was so bummed. You are right about that. It was and you know what, too? I can't remember. I thought they did tours. I know they do it in the other Warner Brothers lot, but I thought they had used to do the Warner Brothers tour through the neighborhood, and I always wanted to be like, you know what? I want to go back there one day and be like, oh yeah, that was the house. And dude, when I saw them demolishing, I was like, oh no, because I mean, I still live here in the valley, and I drive by it occasionally, and I saw everything started going down, and dude, it was almost heartbreaking. Now there's stages going up, which I don't know the business side of everything, so I'm no one to say about what their plan is, but it was definitely sad to see the neighborhood go down, because they had shot some Die Hard movies there, like the movie that or the house that, here's another little tidbit that one of the grips told me, where I do the little flash where he's like, are you in the house? And I'm like, negative, ghost out, and I'm up there. It was that house that appeared in Die Hard, or one of the Die Hard films.
Lethal Weapon, maybe.
Or no, thank you. Lethal Weapon, not Die Hard.
Lethal
Thank you for correcting me. Lethal Weapon, yes, yes, yes. Was shot in one of those houses, and they've obviously a number of other productions have been shot in this neighborhood. So it was not cool to see him. I mean, I don't want to say not cool, but it was not awesome to see him go. You know.
I understand it from a business perspective, but there's so much history to it. Why tear it? Why tear it all down? You know.
I
I
know
understand.
it's no, I was just gonna say it's sad, you know, like you said, there's a lot of history there, and to see it go is just kind of like, all right, they're moving on to the next. I guess they're moving on. So shoot, should we? I hope. I don't want to, you know.
Did you? I it always hurts my heart because I hope the prop department had multiple ones of them. But when Miles Teller broke the gnome, was that the only gnome prop?
Dude, you know what? I wish I knew. There wasn't. I mean, again, being just kind of a kid and on set only occasionally, and I didn't even know anyone's jobs at the time, you know, like I didn't know what everyone was doing on set. I just kind of knew that's the camera guy, that's the director, and these guys are the producers, and these guys set up lights. That's all, you know, like I didn't know really too much what people did at the time. So I didn't know to ask about the gnome. Like, dude, trust me, now I would have asked all these questions. Like, dude, I would have loved to know. But no, man, unfortunately I'm not 100% sure what the deal is with it, if they had multiple props or where they even are, if there's still some out there, dude. Like, trust me, I'd even want to get my hands on one if I could.
Hell yeah, man. What was it? I've had Rick Shapiro as a contact maybe since 2021, so right after COVID, really. And I mean, he's one of those guys, man. I can't tell when he's not joking, but he's a really good dude. And he was telling me a bunch of Project X stories, and I don't know how he comes up with half the stuff he says, man. I mean, I understand, you know, your days on the project were limited, but did you get to spend time with him in any way, shape, or form?
No, unfortunately, I didn't really. I mean, also, I may have been like a little shy as well. Like I told you, I was like, oh, I just want to do my job and do good and make sure we can move on. And I wish I wasn't at the time, you know, but like I really only knew the people that I did my couple scenes with, like between Oliver, JB, and Thomas and Kirby. Like those were the people that we really had scenes with, and those we were the closest with, and they were awesome. But I unfortunately didn't really get a chance to do too much interacting with Rick. Rob as well, you know, because we had the scenes with Rob, so he was awesome. But the people that we didn't really have a scene with, unfortunately, didn't get to interact with a whole bunch. But dude, what? Oh, I'm curious to know. I didn't get to see all of Rick's stuff, but what was like some crazy stuff Rick said about Project X? Because dude, I'm curious to know.
He said that one of the things that he said was when he was on set, I believe he said Mr. Phillips, Todd Phillips. He said that everyone, okay, we all got these lines, but everyone kind of stay on task. But Rick Shapiro, please say 1,000 different, like keep coming up with stuff. Keep coming up with stuff. We'll the best joke wins.
I could see that.
It wasn't a shock to me, but I had to ask. He was not the one in the flamethrower suit when they were actually using it. I totally get that. But he
trust this guy with a flamethrower. Yeah.
He totally won't do anything wrong with it, you know. But he I do have to say, because I mean, it's the most respect way possible. He has Parkinson's, and he has it very serious. So he's fully there, man. Like he's fully on top of everything with talking about it with the movies and everything he's done, man. And he's like, it was like yesterday he did the movie, you know. And his wife Tracy is the best, man. I mean, she has more stories than I think he does, but that's why I told you beforehand, that's why it makes me feel good that Project X was a good experience for a lot of people. And we all have good days and bad days. I'm sure there are long days making a movie, man. You know that better than anybody. But just growing up hearing good stuff about it, you know, it's a good thing, man.
No, I mean, I'm glad Project X had like a good impact, and even though it was like kind of a raunchy, you know, like maybe some of the actual context is maybe not the best, but like, dude, the feeling a lot of people get, and even myself at the time, was like, it was inspiring. It was like almost like, dude, even if it's like super bad, but a little more wholesome, you know.
Makes you
Like,
believe in you. It makes you believe in you.
exactly. Yeah. Like, even though you're, just some high school kid anywhere, like, there's that time that you can have your moment, Um, but I don't know.
What
I'm just happy to be a part of it.
what
Go
was
ahead.
what was it like working with Mr. Phillips? And how
So
frequent was he on set too? Because I know he obviously he's a heavyweight in the comedy genre and filmmaking in general, but he was one of the producers, so I'm sure he wasn't there too much. Maybe.
You know what? I feel like he was there a decent amount. Like, he's obviously was a busy businessman, and he was doing a couple other, like, um he might have been doing other projects at the time, but from my recollection, he was there a decent amount. Like, a lot of the direction, I will say though, like, at least my interaction with the producers was mainly through Scott Budnick. Scott Budnick was amazing. He was so interactive with the cast and crew. Like, he was always talking with us. Like, he had even given us like a little preview of the soundtrack beforehand, which dude, at the time as a kid, I was like, damn, I'm getting the soundtrack before the movie comes out. Like, he was just like trying to be kind of like big bro kind of, and it was really cool to have that from him. But then on set, it was like really the people that I had at least experienced myself, I had a different vision of it from my perspective at the time, but I really was just interacting with the director, Nima. Like, he was keeping so much energy on set. Like, he's this English dude who's like young and like, we're gonna do this and boom, and he was like, that's funny, mate, and let's do it again. Like, dude, he was a freaking a character, and amazing. And then actually the first AD, Michael, because on set, like, the AD's running everything, so they're interacting with everyone, and his energy too was just someone who I'd always interacted with. But I always remember Todd Phillips kind of being there. He was probably directing them, like, he's not always on set dealing with everyone because he was just producing this. He wasn't like totally hands-on. He kind of trusted his team and everyone else to, like, but he was there observing and making sure everything was the way it needed to be.
Now, from Nima has a vast, immense catalog of directing music videos. Project X at times feels like a music video. When you were on set with him, what elements did he bring to the table that he incorporated from music video work into while you guys are physically there?
Yeah. I mean, so I remember them getting set up for the party scenes and them even filming a couple party scenes, like, while I was waiting to do a scene. Like, if they're like, okay, there's no nudity and like this is okay, we can film this scene while they're here, etc. And this is where I even noticed it myself, where it really was like they had music going. They had a real DJ on set that was like keeping the vibes going. And I think that was Nima's doing, and the producers being like, guys, we need to, if we want people to be like thinking this is a real party, we almost gotta have a real party. So they tried to keep the energy there. They were keeping the music, giving them energy drinks, like feeding them, and obviously everything legal. Now the question is, obviously everyone knew that they were going to party. They're like, oh my goodness, we're going to be extras filming from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Like, this is a party. So I don't know how much blind eye turning there was to other stuff, like, oh, well, they're doing that. Maybe it's going to help the scene. Who knows? I don't know. But I could see that being a thing where, and then also being an extra, even if there was no blind eye, even if no one really knew, I can imagine just being extra, like, dude, this is a party movie. Like, let's really party, dude. Like, don't tell anyone, but let's, in the car before we go to set. And I don't know. So
what was it? Is there any, when you were filming, was there any sort of funny moments that were off camera that you still remember to this day filming when you were there?
I mean, I wouldn't say off camera, but I mean, one of the funniest moments I remember was when I'm in the cop car and the guy pukes on the thing. I remember that being pea soup, and the guy had to do it a couple times, and he's like, oh yeah, this isn't that bad. Like, to me, that stood out. It's not the funniest story, but it was just something that was like memorable to me, otherwise, like, at the time, like I said, I was just kind of trying to do my job and do good. So when it wasn't my turn to be on set, I was like, all right, I guess I'll go wait in the trailer. And I wish I honestly spent more time on set, looking back at it now, but even the times I was there was cool.
So when he threw up, was it like someone with a bowl, or was he actually spitting it on the?
Oh no, now I know it was art department or someone was giving him pea soup. All right, holding it in here, and then wait, it's my turn. What? Like it was. I think he did it like 4 or 5 times. But he was like, no, it's just pea soup. It's not that bad.
If you had to pick one track off the soundtrack, and to make it easier, the official released CD, because there's so much music in there, man.
Yep.
What would be the number one track that you could say this is what I like the most?
Probably almost unanimous. People would say the same track, dude. The Kid Cudi Pursuit of Happiness, Steve Aoki is iconic, dude. Like the song was great, and then mixing it with the movie, like it's just, I think the movie with the song just made that song blow up. Like whenever you hear that song, I think you think of Project X.
Literally every time.
It's hard. Like there's not a lot of iconic songs that aren't scores that are like, oh yeah, that's that movie. And I think that's what that track is.
Did you get any opportunity to meet Kid Cudi at any sort of the promo functions for the film?
Well, so not in any of the like promos or whatever, but when they did the release party, and this is another story I like to tell, dude, is I was young at the time, and I guess nobody really cared, but he was doing the show, and he was doing like a little release thing for like whoever was at the premiere, and he brought the cast on stage, including us, and gave everyone a shot of whiskey. And one, it was funny too. I'm a minor. He's like, dude, you're in the cast. You're getting a shot of whiskey. I thought that was cool. And then, man, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, I got a shot of whiskey. Okay. Whoop, took it. And then everyone else was waiting. I was like, oh, wait, we cheers. Oh, my bad. So I didn't have any by the time they did it, but it was cool to be on stage for a second and take a shot with Kid Cudi.
Whiskey is good for the blood. You know that? Just like pizza.
Dude, hey, I'm going to tell people that now because I didn't know that. And I'm going to start using it.
That's the, growing up when I would lift weights at the gym, and very strict, like, you can't eat what you want, but if you eat pizza, it's good for the blood. And that's like it's an excuse, you know what I mean, to eat that pizza.
It's a little justification. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did I don't want to take too much of your time, man. I just a couple things for Project X, and then I got some filmmaker questions for you, and then that's all.
Sure, yeah.
So while you're working on Project X, and it's this big film, and it's Warner Brothers backed from the very, very beginning, did you expect it to blow up into what it became, Superbad on crack, like that sort of image to it?
You know what's funny? Like at the time, no. I figured it might have just been a movie that was like popular for a couple years and then gone. I will tell you though, I got to give it to my mom. She was the one taking me to set at the time. She almost had a hunch from the beginning. She's like, this is like Animal House, which for her, like that was for her generation. That was like their cult party movie was Animal House. And this is, I feel like this is that, it's like on the same level as Superbad, where it's like, you still watch Superbad now and it's still funny and it's still like kind of holds it. It's got its cult reputation. And I feel like it falls into that. But at the time, dude, I wouldn't have known. And as a kid, man, I was naive. I had no idea. I'm definitely blessed, though, that it's had the run that it has.
So after Project X comes out and it's this big success, both financially and critically and everything, I believe in the span of time, there was a sequel announced. And ever since then, there's been nothing onto it. And I've asked Rick about it, and I guess his wife and him said that he was supposed to return, that he never actually died in the original film. Did you hear what happened with the proposed sequel? Did you hear anything, any potential involvement, etc.?
I mean, I don't know anything like officially, but it's probably the same rumors everyone's hearing because I don't get any info. I follow it probably like everyone else does, but I know Michael Bacall wrote a sequel, I think almost immediately after. And I'm not sure if that's gone through adaptations or if it's been rewritten by other people. But then there was something that came out a couple years ago about, it might be Project XX, like the women chromosome, and now it's the female lead. But it's just the same stuff that I had read on the internet. So there probably is a there. I mean, there's a form of the movie out there, but I have no idea what their intentions would be or what the storyline is, or even if I'd come back, dude. I mean, trust me, I want to, but we'll see.
I honestly, man, I would say you deserve it. I would say everybody that was there from the beginning deserves it. The only thing that would be is I can take a joke. I can't speak for everybody though. And you said earlier, Project X, even Superbad, some of that stuff in those films, I feel like people would get very offended by today. But I don't. It's a film. It's art. Go and enjoy yourself. You know.
No, no, no.
So
I mean, I agree with you. I think there's probably that concern from them on that standpoint. You know, they don't want to walk the line too much or push the line too much, and I think I don't know what they'll want to do, but it's definitely not a movie that would be made today. I don't think, for sure.
so you know, you do this film, and then you have other opportunities with a bunch of indie films and some TV shows, and me not personally, I'm not too much into it. I just never really got around to it, but this is for my buddies because my buddies would appreciate me asking you this.
Yeah,
You did an episode of American Horror Story. What what was doing that like? You know.
dude. At the time, it was awesome. I had actually, I think I'm trying to remember. Yeah, no, I think American Story it was after Project X had already came out, or no, I'm trying to remember. That might have been 2011 to 2012, so it might have been just my credit. I think that like had helped me get seen by a couple of casting directors, but working on it was awesome. At the time, it was my favorite show. Asylum was like huge. You know, everyone liked the first one, the about the house, the first season, and then the second season was like, okay, second season, and they were really hitting. It was Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson, and you know the acting was great, the story was great, Ryan Murphy was killing it, and it was the finale. I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be on this show so bad. Um, and man, I was lucky enough to get an opportunity. I did a scene with Sarah Paulson, and it was great to watch her work. Like she was just so into her lines. She was incredibly nice when we were working together. And then when it was like her time, she was like, all right, I'm focusing. She's like getting her lines, reading them back to herself, which the professionalism was amazing to watch. To do a scene with her I was incredibly lucky, and it was just cool to be a part of. It was really just one quick day of filming because it was one scene and it was just on a quick Paramount lot, but it was cool to do. I'm happy to do any project, honestly. If I can live my dream, that's all I can be blessed enough to do.
Absolutely, man. I mean that the special effects on that show are like top tier. I mean, and I feel like that's why it stands so true. The writing is great. The special effects are great. Um, it,
Dude, they really knocked it up.
it's very impressive. The same thing with The Walking Dead. Like the special effects on these series, man, are what are a lot of them practical? Would you say?
I know they try and do a lot of stuff like as practical as they can. Everyone has different ideas about what's best. I appreciate it more when they're like, no, let's have a real special effects makeup person on set, giving them prosthetics, giving them the blood oozing out of their whatever, you know. I think that does better because even even people who don't know CGI can sometimes be like, why does that look off? Because it's CGI. You know, like you can, even if you spend the most amount of money, you can always just kind of tell, and it takes away that realism. You know, like when you're seeing prosthetics, you might be like, oh man, like you might be able to think it looks fake, but it's also real, so it loses that disbelief factor, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I really do agree with you because you can't. I feel like there might be a subconscious thing to where if it feels real, then you can believe it, right?
Exactly.
A couple more things. I don't want to take too much of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
time.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I grew up on Law and Order, and you did an episode of CSI 2 as well from those two. I'm very interested to ask you, obviously, what was it like working on those two shows? But obviously, they're not about the same stuff, but they're both murder mystery environments. What? How could you compare the two working on them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. to be honest, they were both pretty similar. I remember when I did Law and Order, it was just kind of I was part of the investigation, so they were trying to find some perpetrator, and sorry, I'm getting a phone call. They were trying to find some perpetrator, and they ended up using or investigating through me, and I really was just a quick interview with the investigators, but I was innocent. Whereas for the CSI one, I was being investigated as the criminal. So it was just kind of different. Like the scenes going were a little bit different, but the factor of working on set was definitely the same, I'd say.
Now you have a page, Hendershot Media, and you know, obviously coming from you know, acting, filmography, everything, photography as well. You know, what something that I've had to go out and learn myself was, no matter how you see something in your head or write a script, you have to adjust to your environment, and you have to pivot and adjust to still execute the vision that you want, that you see. Doing, you know, your style and everything that you're passionate about. Do you have one instance that made you be like, okay, if I want to execute my vision, I have to adjust, I have to pivot? What moment happened to you there, if any, where you learned that lesson?
Yeah. I mean, I think being an actor and like kind of being on set and then seeing how, okay, there's another side of this. Like as I got older, I realized, oh, you can get behind the camera and then you can tell a story, it kind of intrigued me. And I had my own journey in that, and kind of taking a couple steps going from like picking up a camera to being like learning, oh, let me try and film something now. And I think every time I had learned something, I tried to apply it. But I think I got lost a second. Remind me the question. It was like
it was so as an artist, as a filmmaker, photographer, how do you adjust and pivot to the environment?
Yeah, so I think every time I learned, and then eventually as I'm starting to do a couple like videography gigs, I'll learn, oh, we can't do that. Or even as my experience on set, sometimes you'll kind of realize, oh wait, oh no, we can't use that. Or oh no, we only had one of them. Now we don't have any. So we either gotta tape that together. And I think kind of seeing the MacGyvering of stuff on set, usually no one's negative. Everyone's a solution. Everyone's about creating a solution. Like no one wants to be like, well, that's it, we're done. Like it's like, okay, well, what can we do? How do we do this? And I think that mentality of being like, well, how and then what way is more positive than being like, well, that's it. I think it's just the mentality of like saying, I bet we could, let's figure out how.
I'm glad you said that, man, because that's literally like what I've been seeing. Like, it's not a one person thing. If you work as a team, still with direction, it would still it works.
100%. And the key word there is team too. You need a good team.
I seen a recent post you made. I think it was a couple weeks ago, actually. Did you get a Super 8 camera?
You know what, dude? I'm having, like I said, it's always a journey, just for fun. I picked it up about a year ago, and I've just been like filming stuff and getting it developed. And then I don't know, there's just something that feels intentional about it, and it's art to me. It's like also a memory, like in the least form of it, it's memory for me and my family and friends to come.
Absolutely, man. I'm so, because when I read that, I was like, I always had respect for those cameras. And the fact that I seen you post about it, I said, this is awesome,
Dude, I mean, it's definitely cool, but it's not cheap. I'm like, all the extra little money I have is like, well, there it goes to my memories, but no, I think it's still worth it. It's awesome.
I appreciate your dedication to it, man, because not a lot of people, like a lot of people that I grew up around, like over here, wouldn't want to go, like, it's like, they wouldn't want to deal with tedious things like that. And I appreciate it, man.
No, thank you. It's the intention behind it. I'm glad you noticed.
Is there, I want you to promote everything that you have, man. Like every films you got coming up, your socials,
Sure.
everything. I want you to really shine with what you
Yeah,
have.
no, I mean, at the time, I've really just been focused on the filmmaking side of my career. But I think coming forward, like I've had a lot of inspiration recently to start creating my own stuff and creating a short. So hopefully sometime in the future here, there's going to be something that's coming out. And then, man, as far as the acting career goes, I really want to just hit it harder this year. Gonna get some new shots and new representation, and hopefully get out there. And I gotta say, actually, something funny this is not necessarily a shout out for me, but it's almost like how weird the universe is. This is a shout out to another. He's actually another big actor at the time, or another big actor right now with an incredibly similar name. Now, are you ready for this? He's in the new Netflix Waterfront. He's been in a couple other awesome projects. Is Brady Hepner.
Okay.
Dude,
Okay.
when I look at that, I'm like, that's crazy, dude. He's almost got the same name as me. Brady Hender, Brady Hepner. You look at the D, you flip it, the N and the. I was just like, oh my goodness, dude. This is like the universe is just like, it's like a weird crisscross glitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen that instances before, and it's unnerving. It's weird.
Dude, I'm
It's
like,
so spooky.
I know, and not only that, it's that he's also an actor. Almost, I think he's a little younger than me, but similar roles. And I don't know. I was just kind of like, whoa, it's just like a deja vu type. It's like a Mandela effect. It's all of them,
Yeah. Is there? Could you shout out all your socials, man? Everything that you have, social media wise.
Yeah. You could follow me at Brady Hender for my personal page, and then for any of my filmmaking, videography work is at Hendershot Media, and those are my two socials that I'm really active on.
Cool beans, man. Awesome. I
Dude, cool
appreciate
beans.
you, man.
That's an East Coast thing, Rocco.
It is. It is. I got that from Hot Rod. You know that?
Yeah, what is that? Sandberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.